Welcome to Sweet Dreams Stories. If you like what you hear, please like and share these stories with your friends. Follow us on social media like Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Ruthie Hart. Today's story is The Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen. Many years ago, there was an emperor who was so excessively fond of new clothes that he spent all his money on them. He cared nothing about his soldiers, nor the theater, nor for driving in the woods, except for the sake of showing off his new clothes. He had a costume for every hour in the day. Life was very gay in the great town where he lived. Hosts of strangers came to visit it every day, and among them one day were two swindlers. They gave themselves out as weavers and said that they knew how to weave the most beautiful fabrics imaginable. Not only were the colors and patterns unusually fine, but the clothes that were made of this cloth had the peculiar quality of becoming invisible to every person who was not fit for the office he held or who was impossibly dull.
"Those must be splendid clothes," thought the emperor. "By wearing them, I should be able to discover which men in my kingdom are unfit for their posts. I shall distinguish the wise men from the fools. Yes, I certainly must order some of that stuff to be woven for me."
The emperor paid the two swindlers a lot of money in advance so that they might begin their work at once. They put up 2 looms and pretended to weave, but they had nothing whatever upon their shuttles. At the outset, they asked for a quantity of the finest silk and the purest gold thread, all of which they put into their own bags while they worked away at the empty looms far into the night.
"I should like to know how those weavers are getting on with their cloth,"
thought the emperor. But he felt a little queer when he reflected that anyone who was stupid or unfit for his post would not be able to see it. He certainly thought that he need have no fears for himself, but still he thought he would send somebody else first to see how it was getting on. Everybody in the town knew what wonderful power the stuff possessed, and everyone was anxious to see how stupid his neighbor was.
"I will send my faithful old minister to the weavers," thought the emperor. "He will be best to see how the stuff looks, for he is a clever man, and no one fulfills his duties better than he does."
So the good old minister went into the room where the two swindlers sat working at the empty loom. "Good gracious," thought the old minister, opening his eyes very wide. "Why, I can't see a thing." But he took care not to say so. Both the swindlers begged him to be good enough to step a little nearer, and asked if he did not think it a good pattern and a beautiful coloring. They pointed to the empty loom. The poor old minister stared as hard as he could, but he could not see anything, for of course there was nothing to see.
"Is it possible," he thought, "that I am a fool? I have never thought so, and nobody must know it. Am I not fit for my post? It will never do to say that I cannot see the stuff."
One of the swindlers who was pretending to weave asked the minister what he thought about the fabric.
"Oh, it's beautiful, quite charming," said the minister, looking through his spectacles. "I will certainly tell the emperor that the stuff pleases me very much."
The swindlers then named all the colors and described the peculiar pattern. The old minister paid great attention to what they had said so as to be able to repeat it when he got home to the emperor. The swindlers then went on to demand more money, more silk, and more gold to be able to proceed with the weaving, but they put it all into their own pockets. Not a single strand was ever put onto the loom. But they went on as before, weaving at the empty loom. The emperor soon sent another faithful official to see how the stuff was getting on, and if it would be ready soon. And the same thing happened to him as to the minister. He looked and looked, but as there was only the empty loom, he could see nothing at all. Both the swindlers showed the official the beautiful fabric, explaining the colors and the pattern, which were not there to be seen.
"I know I'm no fool," thought the man, "so it must be that I am unfit for my post. It is very strange, though. However, one must not let it appear."
So he praised the stuff he did not see and assured them of his delight in the beautiful colors and the originality of the design. He then told the emperor how beautiful the fabric was. Everybody in the town was talking about this splendid fabric. Now the emperor thought he would like to see it while it was still on the loom. So, accompanied by a number of selected courtiers, among whom were the two faithful officials who had already seen the imaginary stuff, he went to visit the crafty impostors. When the emperor got there, he thought,
"What? I see nothing at all. This is terrible. Am I a fool? Am I not fit to be emperor? Why, nothing worse could happen to me. "Oh, it is beautiful," said the emperor. "It has my highest approval." And he nodded his satisfaction as he gazed at the empty loom. Nothing would induce him to say that he could not see anything. The swindlers sat up the whole night before the day on which a procession was to take place. They pretended to take the stuff off the loom, cut it out in the air with a huge pair of scissors, and stitched away with needles without any thread in them. At last they said that the clothes were ready. The emperor, with his grandest courtiers, went to them himself, and both swindlers raised one arm in the air as if they were holding something. "Will your imperial majesty be graciously pleased to take off your clothes?" said the impostors. "Then we may put on the new ones along here before the great mirror." The emperor took off all his clothes, and the impostors pretended to give him one article of dress after the other of the new ones which they had pretended to make. They pretended to fasten something around his waist, and to tie on something. This was the train, and the emperor turned round and round in front of the mirror. The people all said how wonderful the majesty looked in his new clothes, how becoming they were. "Well, I am quite ready," said the emperor. "Don't the clothes fit well?" Then he turned around and around again in front of the mirror, so that he should seem to be looking at his grand clothes, and headed out to the procession. Then the emperor walked along in the procession under a gorgeous canopy, and everybody in the streets and at the windows exclaimed how beautiful the emperor's new clothes were. Nobody would let it appear that he could see nothing, for then he would not be fit for his post, or else he was a fool. None of the emperor's clothes had been so successful before. "But he's got nothing on," said a little child. And then one person started whispering to the other what the child had said. "He has nothing on, a child says he has nothing on." "But he has nothing on," at last cried all the people. The emperor writhed, for he knew it was true. But he thought the procession must go on now, so he held himself stiffer than ever, and the chamberlains held up the invisible train. The end. Now it's time to get under your covers and take a nice deep breath and relax. Let's fold our hands for a prayer. Lord in heaven, hear my prayer. Keep me in your loving care. Be my guide in all I do. Bless all those who love me too. Amen. I'm Ruthie Hart, wishing you sweet dreams.